Hello, welcome, dear students. Good evening. I'm very happy to see you all. This is our Wednesday, May 10th class, and this is actually week 15 of our Leadership in Global Environment class. We're almost finished, and actually this is the last lecture, the last class of the semester, because as all of you remember and all of you know, next week we're going to be watching the videos, the TED Talks, simulations, role plays, and podcasts that many of you prepared as your final presentation. So we're really looking forward to getting to see the videos, how creative you are going to get. And I'm just very, very happy and very excited. I'm really looking forward to watching your creation because I am sure it's going to be they're going to be one of the best videos my students have created. But today we have actually such an interesting topic, and too bad we only have one class to talk about it because it's a very controversial topic as well. In this class, we have talked again in our first academic period about leadership theories, strategies, skills, everything that it takes. We have learned that skills usually can be developed. We, of course, part of our personality, we already have perhaps seen many of these skills in people around us, and we have actually grown into developing these leadership skills and making them part of our personality already. In academic period two, we talked about management and about managerial theories, strategies, tools about how to manage teams, how to manage different processes, etc. But mostly how international companies work internationally. We learned about multinationals, we learned about franchises, we learned about acquisitions, we learned there are so many different ways in which international business, international organizations take place that it was so important then to talk in this last academic period about all the different multicultural differences, all the intercultural connections that we have when we work with people with different cultures. And something that we have emphasized almost every class during this last academic period is that these international multicultural differences are not even between one country and another. Sometimes these differences are within one country, remember? Cultures within cultures. And it's inevitable then to learn how to deal, how to work effectively with people whose values, beliefs, ideas may be different to ours. But then this leads us to the last topic of our semester, which is how do we deal with ethics in global leadership? When we talk about an organization, and we have talked about how many organizations, their headquarters are located in one country, for example, but some, if not most of its franchises or subsidiaries, etc., are in other countries, are abroad, correct? And we have talked about so many differences in values, visions, perspectives in different countries. How do we put these things together? How do we make organizations work maybe where the ethical perception we have of things is different to maybe sometimes even the philosophy of our organizations, the philosophy of our business? So we're going to discuss this topic today. It's actually very, very interesting. Just like every class, we begin with an acknowledgement because I'm teaching this class from Vancouver City in Canada. And I acknowledge that I am situated in the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, to which I am very grateful. And if it weren't because of them, I wouldn't be here teaching this class to my students in Mexico, my students in Brazil, and my students in Iraq. Thank you very much. Now, as a warm-up, okay? For the students I have present in class and also the students who will be watching this online, I want you to write down in your notebook words that come to your mind when we start talking about these terms, and we're going to try to put them together. When we talk about international business, but we talk also about rules and policies of international business. Also, let's talk about organizational governance. Every organization has its own rules. Every organization has usually their own framework. Okay, it's very clear from the strategic management part, vision, mission, objectives, etc., what the company philosophy is. And most of the organizations establish this from the beginning because it's very important that all employees, regardless of whatever they do, we all work towards the same goal. And governance means also the rules and the policies that each organization has for its own operation. However, now when we talk about moving to another country or establishing factories, offices, branches in other countries, we have to deal sometimes with types of governance that are very different from the organization's philosophy, from the organization policies, from the organization's ethical rules. And this is a topic that we'll talk about today. Remember also, guys, when we talked about localization and centralization rules, remember that topic? Remember that we talked about the fact that most companies in the past used to centralize everything, right? Everything was or standardized. It's also another name for centralized or standardized. So the rules that I had in my country, they had to be followed in all my other branches abroad. But we also learned that most of the companies actually failed, remember, because of all the different cultural visions and perspectives, because they wanted all the operations abroad in their other offices in other countries to be exactly the same as they were in either England, maybe in the US or in Canada. And sometimes in Latin American countries, in East Asian countries, in African countries, this was very difficult to follow because we were dealing with a different culture. And nowadays, we also talked about the fact that many organizations and many companies are allowing a little bit more for some local strategies, local decisions. We also talked about how finding a hybrid combination between the standardization of policies and rules and the localization in the country is usually the perfect fit, right? Because that way our organizational philosophy can respectfully merge with the culture in the country where we're establishing our new company, our new office, or our new branch. Okay. Now, this also leads us to another two topics, two concepts to discuss: legal versus ethical. One thing is, oh, but I'm not breaking any rule. What I'm doing is legal. Yeah, but is it ethical? And if you are right now connected, I know some of you are connected, Rose or Marianita. If you'd like to add something to this topic, I don't want you to give me an answer, but I also want you to share, is this something that maybe these are questions that we usually don't ask ourselves, right? These are questions that we give for granted. But is it the same ethical than legal? Not necessarily, right? And finally, most organizations have codes of conduct, okay? There are codes of conduct in not only organizations, but also, you know what? In industries. There are industries like exports and imports. Those areas have their own codes of conduct. Or for example, in human resources, right? Or in legal issues, there are certain codes of conduct that professionals have to follow, regardless of the organization they work for. Now, most of these professional bodies, professional councils, most of them agree and they are international. However, once again, we go to what is legal, but also what is legal, is it necessarily always ethical? And we don't have an answer for that, okay? Any comment or any question, anything you would like to add to this? Do you understand what the topic is about? Any comment, any suggestion? Marianita, anything that goes through your mind? No? Yes? Rose? So far, so good?
I was only like writing the words and I wrote like first I wrote people when I was like reading all the words, I think like in people. I also wrote empathy, development, system, harmony, respect, and try and failure. Failure.
Trial and failure. Totally and completely agree, guys. And you guys, because I know you're taking this class, but you already have so many things going on around you, right? And you see these things outside. In this class, we converge and we talk. But all those things that you see outside are those words that you just mentioned, Marianita. So thank you very much. Rose, is this also something similar in Brazil? Because and again, it's not about judging or saying it's bad or wrong, but we're going to talk actually about Walmart in Mexico. Walmart in Mexico spends more than 10% of all expenses paying bribes and corrupt fees in our country, which is really sad. And I have it in writing. I'm not saying it. There are authors saying it. Is this also a situation you live in Brazil?
Yeah, it's a common situation, but I am happy that the company I used to work didn't pay anything extra to anyone. So I was very free to do my job. I was sure that I was doing my best, and when we had problems with the customs or something like that, we paid the peanuts, the taxes, everything, but we didn't make anything that could be a corruption. But it really exists here. And if the company is not ethical as you are, you will probably have problems.
I see. Also, and this is very important, guys. We have talked about how everything is evolving, and international business and this globalization we are immersed in is also forcing organizations and even governments to become more ethical, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good. So let's continue because these are topics we'll be together talking about today. I'm going to read very briefly. Okay, this is again just like definitions. You don't need to learn them or anything, but keywords. Okay, so international business ethics policy should usually consider practices as corporate governance. Okay, whatever it's legal, bribery, discrimination, but also social responsibility and fiduciary duties. A definition of international business ethics usually begins with a moral code of right and wrong, of course. But this modern business ethics has expanded now, and now it's also supporting the social part with the human rights, correct? But also the environment. And we're going to talk about that. But guess what? 30 years ago, when I started working in business, 35 years ago, usually we didn't talk as much in about the environment or about human rights, to tell you the truth. So this is something that I believe is part of this evolution that we can see. Remember, Marianita and Rose, yes, the other class I was saying that I love the new generations, remember? Well, I love the new generations because what we see now that's happening in the organizations, it's actually a result of so many years and new generations coming and taking control, which maybe some of the Gen Xers are now taking control when maybe the older generations didn't have this vision, and not because they were wrong or they were doing anything bad, just they were just born in a different reality. And I'm glad we have in these new generations a new reality. And also I think we see a fair future now. Now, when we talk about codes of ethics, okay, there are three types, and these are the ones I kind of already mentioned. The first one has to do with compliance based, which is based on law. What is the law? What is legal? What do lawyers, what do governments, what do regulators say that we're allowed to do? For example, is my organization, how are we going to deal with pollution, with the water, wastewater, what are the limitations that governments are already putting in all these international organizations. So as you can see, that's the first one. The second one is the value-based codes, and this usually have to do more with the culture, okay? What we see as normal, what we usually see as the public good, the benefit for most people in a country, in a population. But also we have the professional codes, the one I was telling you about, remember? The lawyers have one, the accountants have one, and these professional codes, of course, they try to emphasize a certain framework of rules that should be followed to do our jobs ethically in whatever profession we have to deal with. So these codes are already shaping things, but please remember, these are also evolving. And I bet that the same codes of conduct that we have now, they were not the same 35 years ago, right? And we're going to see in different examples how everything has evolved when we talk about different examples. So what is corruption from a cross-cultural vision? And it's very important that when we address this topic, again, it won't be in a judgmental way, guys, but more in a let's understand where things are coming from. So we also understand what's coming in the future and what's our responsibility as global leaders to make a change and to create a change, okay? So the first thing I already mentioned, the world is shrinking. Now with globalization, the good thing is now we know what's happening in other part of the world right now. we can check social media, we can check the news, right? And we will know exactly what's happening in another part of the world. Whereas 35 years ago, when we didn't have a lot of access to internet, it took a little while to get news and information. Now, that doesn't mean that information is not filtered and controlled. Okay, that's another topic, that's another story. Okay, and we're not going to get into that. But now, this is important. Bribery, kickbacks, cronyism, and nepotism seems to be more prevalent in some parts of the world. And that's the reality. We're not judging. This is still the reality. And one wants to know why. Is it because some people are less ethical than others? Or is it because they have different ethical systems and regard these behaviors are acceptable? Remember when we talk about cultures and how many people see things just differently and for them are normal? They don't even see it as a wrong way, remember? Actually, let me share with you something that happened yesterday in my class at Vancouver Community College. One of my students, but I understood. And all the other students were like, I said, excuse me, could you repeat again? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat again, then what's your industry of interest? And he answered, I already told you, teacher, my industry of interest is information technology. And I believe blah, blah. I said, oh, okay. And all the other students from other cultures, I'm not going to say the culture or anything, but all the other students were like, oh my God. And I said, guys, relax. And I called his name and I said, it's okay, don't worry. Because he got surprised, like he didn't understand why other students perceived his response as negative. And maybe me, the old teacher, would have taken personally, right? Like, why is this student telling me, teacher, I already told you. But he wasn't, how can I explain this to you now? I understand. It's how they speak in his culture, and that's okay. He's not trying to tell me I'm dumb or I'm stupid or he wasn't even angry, you know? It's just the normal way to speak to a person, like saying, I told you, but I will tell you again. We just do it in a different way, you see? So I'm hoping for all of you guys, the ones who are live in this class and the ones who will be watching this video later, also try to see things with different glasses, right? So when we talk about these ethical systems, it's not about what is right or wrong, because now, for example, if we analyze some rules that were accepted 35 years ago, we go like, how could that be accepted, right? We could understand that, but it was seen as something okay. I know. Now, let's talk about examples. This is the first example. We're not going to read it all. Swiss companies. And I wanted to share this with you because I think these figures are so important. I'm going to go to the second paragraph. Since 2003, companies like ABB, which is a Swiss company, are liable to prosecution under the Swiss criminal law because they're judged as they have neglected to take the necessary measurements to prevent serious cases of corruption and money laundering in South Africa. Now, as you can see, this is 2003. This is 20 years ago, okay? And it started happening 20 years ago. But this is so important and interesting. In practice, however, it's rare that companies are chased by Swiss judges. Transparency International, blah, 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 they are now followed in their same country for acts of corruption in other countries. And I think this was very important to share with you guys. I hope you learned from this case study. Swiss companies involved in big international corruption or money laundering scandals are generally held accountable abroad, but sometimes not in Switzerland. So also, I have a question for you. If there's no legal body that is going to persecute me as an organization, do you think then many organizations go to the limit then, perhaps? Because nobody's going to persecute me. Remember, I told you my research, the research I'm doing, is based on the electric company in Pakistan. It used to be a public organization. Public organization. It became private a few years ago. And my mentor, Dr. Nisa Chand, ran her doctoral dissertation research in Pakistan with this company. And one of the facts they found out is that the organization was overcharging clients. But listen to this. The clients they were charging more money to, they were from the poorest, lowest class level, where most of the people didn't even know how to read or write. So they don't know how to defend themselves. And I want to say, higher class customers, they were not overcharged. I know, right? I am amazed. And the question is, why do organizations go to this limit? Because the government is allowing for that. That's my question. And I think the objective of today's class, guys, is not for you to give me an answer, is to create an awareness, to create this, okay, this goes beyond anything that I had thought before. Let's talk about more examples. The problem of corruption. When a large corporation decides to enter a foreign market, this is very important, it must usually secure a number of licenses, permits, registrations, and other government approvals. Certain types of business may even be impossible or illegal unless a corporation is able to change or adjust some of the laws and regulations in that country. Now, sometimes the power to authorize these foreign corporations' activities is in the hands of politicians. And since corporations have access to large financial resources, it should not be surprising that some corporations actually give some financial incentives to influence the decisions of the officials. I don't think this is anything new. This is something that has happened. And listen to me, when I was a little girl in the 80s, this was the norm. Absolutely, the only way to get around was paying corrupt money. Okay. And there was no other way to go. Now, the situation here is, and we're going to continue. Let me talk about this example. Let's talk about Walmart in Mexico. Marianita, can you read? Can you help us read? I don't know if you have your microphone. This is very, very interesting.
Yes, it says, according to a report issued by the Mexican Employers Association in 2011, companies operating in Mexico spend more than 10% of their revenue on corrupt acts. One of the most well-known cases was the Walmart scandal that was brought to light in September of 2005 and resulted in the company's stock value dropping by as much as 4.5 billion. Evidence unearthed by international and external investigations revealed a widespread use of bribes.
Widespread means like widespread. Yep.
Yes. Alleged to total over 24 million. The bribes were paid to facilitate the construction of Walmart stores throughout Mexico. The country is a huge market for Walmart. 1 in every 5 Walmart stores is in Mexico. As of October 2014, the investigation continued, having implicated Walmart management at the most senior levels of complicity or awareness.
Very good. Thank you so much, Marianita. Now, my question is, these organizations are still operating. Does that mean that the government allows for this to happen? And then organizations try their luck by going to the extreme and doing what they have to do And again, as I already told you, I don't think we're going to have an answer by the end of this class. But what I can tell you is that things have been evolving. But this just happened. This just happened 20, not even 20 years ago. All right. And even look at as of October 2014, they're still investigating. But the question is, even when the investigation starts and everything, we don't know if also money is being paid so that at the end, oh, don't worry, like you're not in trouble. And we know, unfortunately, this is the case for many of our countries. Now, let's talk about another situation in another country, okay? This is, for example, a real situation about a university that wants to open new schools in China, okay? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to focus. Topic for debate: to hire or not to hire a consultant who may be bribing officials on behalf of the university. What they're trying to do in the story, actually, if you have time to read it later, it says that if you want to open a university, most foreign institutions that want to open a college or an educational institution, usually, they need to have a partner with an established university already there, like an agreement. You know, they need to have this partnership with established Chinese university if they want to open a university. Like you cannot just arrive there and open your school. You need to have like a partnership, like a support from another university. And even then, I'm just reading the last part, okay? The usual issues related to operation of a partnership or joint venture are usually complicated because we're talking about different cultures. Now, Cleveland College, this is a real example, hire a local agent or public relations consultant. And I'm sorry because, public relations is my area. But sometimes, unfortunately, they talk about public relations people as the ones doing the whole horrible things and the bribery things and the ones paying the money. I know it's horrible. Now, this consultant, listen, requests a sizable enough retainer, which means money, that we may reasonably suspect, that is to pay cash donations to obtain goodwill from the local institutions. Now, this is the question. Do we pay him or we don't pay him? There are, and you know why I like this example very much before we go to the break? Because there are very interesting positions to say, yes, let's pay him. And also very interesting positions to say, no, let's not pay him. And as I think, and because today I'm finishing with this class, I have always asked you guys to always listen to both parts before we judge. And I know our instinct is, no, we're going to do the right thing. Listen. Because actually in the video that we're going to watch at the beginning, and I'm going to tell you this story even though you're going to watch the beginning, it talks about, if I remember well, international corporation that is going to open manufacturing for clothing in, I can't remember if it's Africa or East Asia. The point is, they are about to hire a 14 or a 15-year-old girl. She's a child, right? And child labor is a huge ethical issue, correct? Okay, so in this video, they present the fact that they say, no, sorry, in this factory, we're not going to hire children to work in the factories. But then they explain, this girl, oh, I hope I don't cry. This girl, 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl, she's an orphan and she's in charge of her little brother. Because we don't give her a job in the factories, we're not leaving them any other option that maybe start prostitution or start something else to try to make a living for her and her little brother. What do we do? And I know when I listen to the video, I want to cry because that's why I always ask you before you say, no, let's not listen. And let's evaluate absolutely every other option we have. What if, and I'm thinking now that I had time to think after I cried, I'm thinking now, how about if child labor, it's okay. You know what I learned when I was doing my international human resources class? There are countries in Africa in which what they did, the government legalized child labor, but making sure it's regal, it's like regular, making sure children don't work more than 6 hours per day, for example, and that they work only 3 or 4 days a week, that they have half an hour at least for break in between those hours. So when I learned that in international human resources, the first thing I said, why did they do that? They should forbid children working. But I never thought about the fact that many of these children actually are basic to support their families, to bring food to their families, because that's not our reality. So we don't think about that, right? So, and I know these are such sad situations, stories, but I think the lesson, and the lesson I want you to leave with at the end of this semester, guys, is let's analyze every position before we make a decision. And then I understood, if they abolish child labor, they're going to put these children in a horrible situation in which there aren't many things to do for them. It's going to be worse, you know. But then these countries in Africa, now that they legalized children labor, they said children, for example, they have rules for children above 12 years old, but now they also have for children above 10. But then they make sure, for example, they cannot work night shifts. They have to work, like, they are really protecting the children when you think about it. I know children shouldn't work, but right now, tell me, I don't know in Brazil, my dear Rose Kelly, but in Mexico, we see children selling bubble gum at the corners, in the streets. And that's still child labor, right? So if we really think about it, and I'm not saying it's right, please don't take me wrong. I'm just saying, let's meet halfway. What if we meet halfway when within a culture, there's something that is so accepted? Well, if it's so accepted and we're going to make it worse, why don't we just make it in a better way so we protect more people? I have never thought about it, to tell you the truth. That's why I wanted to share this with you. So you see all the possible arguments of hiring the agent who's going to pay the bravery. I don't know. All the negative, of course there are negative, okay, many negative, but what I wanted you to ponder is always make a list. Even with these topics that are so controversial, we hear corruption, we hear bribery, we hear human rights, and our immediate response is no. Listen first and let's try to understand. You said, Marianita, one of the words you wrote was empathy. And empathy means also leaving our ego aside and listen. I know it's breaking my heart, but I'm willing to listen to you to try to understand. You know what I'm saying? So isn't this interesting? I thought this class was very interesting, to tell you the truth. Now, it's almost time for our break. So let's do this, because we're going to watch this video in 2 parts. Okay. And as I'm recording, I'm going to be watching the video and I'm going to leave the minutes. Okay. And then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss. I'm going to talk about it. I hope you also take notes while you read. The first part that we're going to watch, it's actually the topic. It's very interesting. Ethical issues in international business. And they talk about 4 elements. And they give the example about this girl working in child labor. And they give this example. And then the second part, it's continue from the minute 5.45 to minute 8:45. And they talk about why managers, what are the rules, what are the roots, what are the reasons why managers usually have unethical behaviors when we work internationally, and not again in a blameful way or judgmental way, but in an understanding way. Okay, so I think watching these videos is also going to help us very much. And because I told you today I was going to finish the class earlier, let's take only 5 minutes of break. Okay, and when we come back, we're going to start watching the first part together. Okay, you're going to watch it on your own. I'm going to watch it here on my own. Okay, I'm going to pause the video so I give time for the people watching the video on their own. For the people also watching this video on YouTube, you can start going to YouTube and actually looking for the name of the video is ethic issues in international business. Okay, so let's take 5 minutes. Right now, I believe in Mexico City is 6:48. Let's meet again here. No, sorry, 7:48. Let's meet again here in 5 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes before 8 in Mexico City. Okay, 5 minutes to 8, we'll meet, and then we'll start watching and we'll continue. Thank you. I'm going to pause for 5 minutes. Bye. Okay, guys, we're coming back. And as I said, now that we'll be back, we're going to be watching this video in 2 sections. Okay, the video is actually longer, but we're only going to watch first until minute 5:45. Then we're going to come back here. Okay, I'm actually going to be watching it at the same time. And when we come back, we're going to discuss this first section. And after we briefly discuss this first section, we'll go to the second question, which is why managers sometimes perform or fall in these unethical behaviors. And with that, we'll be finishing our last reflection, okay, of the day. So I'm going to share again. I believe I already shared the link. I'm going to share it again for those of you who are live. I think you have it. So I'm going to give you 6 minutes. Okay, let's meet here again at 8:01. Let's start watching now. I'm going to mute myself and we'll come back in 6 minutes. Thank you. Remember to stop at 5:45, okay? Okay, guys, so what do you think about this first section? I know it's actually very interesting just to talk about the girl, right? The 12-year-old girl working in the shop. And I honestly, I have to share some personal thought. Every time I heard, maybe years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we hear these stories about these child labor shops, right, in China and in many countries, and where actually this is an economic sector. You know, as I already mentioned, in this case, maybe the girl was an orphan. I have a friend, for example, in Africa, Temwa, and she's my friend because once a year I have we make donations for the children in Africa for her school, and I never realized nowadays it's very common for her to take care of children that become orphans because a lot of parents die of disease in Africa. And because in my world, I don't see my students becoming orphans because their parents are dying of disease, because maybe in the countries where we live, this is a situation we have overcome. So we tend to believe that my reality is the reality everywhere else. And then when we judge or we value or we give our opinion is from our vision of reality and perspective. But now that I know, because of my friend Temwa, that there are so many orphans and not many of these orphans have someone to take care of them, now I'm thinking this that I learned in my international human resources management class about having countries in Africa that now have legalized children after 12 working legally with more regulated human rights framework, etc. Now I'm thinking maybe they're actually trying to help these children because that's the way it is. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's not about right or wrong. It's just trying to understand some other things. So what do you think about this part of the video? Anyone would like to share anything in particular? Because they talk about the practices, they talk about the human rights. Do you believe that? Just in 94 in South Africa, you couldn't become a manager in charge of white people. We're talking about 20, 25 years ago. Can you believe that? I know. And again, it's not about judging. It's what do we do as organizations? Or the organization that says, let's place our factory in that country, because in that country, the government doesn't have regulations for us to pollute the waters. So that's my question. I know it is, because they can say, oh, it's legal. I'm not breaking the law. Well, no, you're not breaking the law, but it's unethical, right? So I don't have an answer for you guys, but I would like to know what you think, because I can see you're very, I know it's a very philosophical class. I know, Marianita, what are you thinking?
Well, I don't know, like thinking on that is like, oh, how can they do it like in the past? But then I think like now in present, and I know that we have like, well, just pass a lot and develop a lot, but I think that there is still things that we know that there are maybe, well, yes, like you said, legal, but things that we know that maybe there are no good or ethical, or we could do like best in different ways, no, in, well, yes, in politics, but also, I don't know, in the schools or in different parts in sports, or I don't know, there is like a lot of work that we have to be more humans. I don't know how to say it in other way, to be more humans and try to I live the world better than we saw it in the place we are. Not only things like leaving it to other people because they have more authority or something like that.
Why I'm so proud of all of you, my students, because you're already making this change just by being in this class, just by by having this open mind, this mindset of let's discuss these topics. As I already told you in the last class when we almost cried, I'm so proud of all of you because I know that wherever you go, this change we went through this semester of becoming more aware, more empathic, and more respectful to people who are different to us is going to, in the future, you're already seeds for that change. I promise, Marianita, I promise. So don't lose faith. Rose Kelly, anything that you would like to add about this part of the video?
Yes, I believe that the rules and the law is necessary. Otherwise, the companies will not change. They will keep following, keep going.
And I actually think many countries, to tell you the truth, because it's the officials getting the bribes, the officials sometimes are the ones not changing the laws. You know, like sometimes we see that, at least in Mexico, we see that senators and representatives are approving laws that are actually giving them more freedom to do illegal things. But I know, I still believe, I never lose hope. And I've told you before, I wouldn't be a teacher if I didn't have a positive positive faith and a positive vision for the future. And that's why I'm here with all my students. Yes, Marianita, go ahead.
Yesterday we have an event of the Coparmex, and we invite different exunlas, different students that were studying in our university. And I don't know, I feel like so proud while I was listening like all their testimonies and all their histories, because there is a exunla of derecho, I think so. Well, I don't know.
Law, from the legal.
Well, yes. And she is now like working on the ONU, like on the human rights of
United
the,
Nations. She's working in United Nations. I know.
yes, on the like well, just like defending, I don't know really good what she's doing, but defending like the migrants of Michoacan. And I don't know, like thinking that we are in the same school and maybe we sometimes don't like take a break to see who other students are or who other people is around us and what big things are they doing.
Remember something, Marianita, and I'm going to tell you something because you were in our high school in UNLA. When students arrive, of course, I know they're very young. You're 15 years old usually when you start high school. And now that you're graduating your bachelor's degree, you are 21, 22 years old. Some of them are 23 maybe. But there's something that I have seen in all my students, not only here with you guys, but in all those schools that I have taught. I think most students do not perceive the power they have. The power. And the power, when I say power, I don't mean power as in a position or money but you, the person you became, the person you grew up to be while you were a student from high school usually to bachelor's, we're talking about 7 years. Trust me. And that's one reason why I love working with UNLA. I'm so proud of the work we do at UNLA because I know you're coming also from your families and it's coming also from all your environment, etc. But UNLA, I'm so proud of all of our students, all of them. There's absolutely none, not even one that I will say, as time passes by, every student who graduates and understands the power he has goes out and changes the world and is changing the world right now. But I think, Marianita, it's I wish that's why I'm telling you guys, wake up. I feel like I want to hug you, but also I want to shake you. Like, wake up. If you realize the power you have, you wouldn't limit yourself because it is the students. And I'm sure, Rose Kelly, you're a teacher. You should also tell the same to your students because it is sometimes the students, it's like an invisible wall that the students have in front of them. And I tell you, if I wish you could see yourselves with the eyes that I see you through. And sometimes my students don't understand that. And the thing is, all that event that you just had, my dear Mariana, that's why we create those events, because you are already there, but it's you. Like, I mean, not you, Marianita, but you students in general, setting those barriers and those limitations and thinking, no, there's no way I can. Of course you can. You're already creating a lot of change. Marianita, you visit hospitals and you do a lot of volunteering work, and there are many people you are already inspiring. And sometimes you don't even know those people. You don't even know their names sometimes, but people are watching you. And that's how you create the change, through your own, you being who you are. That's how you inspire others. And I'm so glad you're proud of all our alumni, our former students. I am proud of all of them. And I told you last class, we cried together. I'm so proud of all of you, because I don't have a doubt. I don't. Trust me. Of course, I told you I'm not going to be here in 20 years, right? But you keep going. You keep going and you keep doing what you're doing. So yes, everything we're talking about here, Mariana, is not about knowing or not knowing, but it's about understanding, realizing, and becoming aware of things that maybe I had never put thought of. And many of these topics, sometimes I have students that talk about this with their families, like they talk in lunch or dinner. You know what? We had a class last week that was very crazy, but we started talking about this. And I thought it was very interesting, mom or dad or brother or cousin. And some people won't understand. Of course not. But you are here for the people who will connect to your own frequency, and those ones will understand. And that's why you're here in this world. So keep doing what you're doing. Okay. Okay, let's watch the last part and then we can go. Otherwise, we're going to spend here the rest of the day, and I want to let you go. The last part is actually focusing on managers, and this is the last part of our class. Why do managers, and I want you to see or to watch this section again, not in a judgmental way, but let's try to understand why sometimes managers are put sometimes in between, because you will inevitably have to make decisions. And I wish I could tell you all the decisions that you're going to make are going to make everyone happy. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. But if you know you're being fair, you're being ethical, and there's a reason for it, maybe people won't like it, but at least you know you're doing the right thing. So let's continue after the minute 5:45. We'll stop and again in 4 minutes, okay, 8:45. So I'll meet you here. I'm going to be watching at the same time as you are watching, and let's meet here then in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, as I already said, the video goes on and on and on. It's very interesting, but we're not going to watch it here. So to wrap up this topic, guys, even when managers make decisions, as we just saw, sometimes they're not aware. We usually have this belief like, oh my God, how can he be doing it? How can she be making? Not a lot of people may have this open, empathic vision of thinking of others. And not everyone means to do harm. However, lack of knowledge sometimes leads us to being, hi, Livia, welcome. Don't worry, don't worry. We're recording the class. You'll have time to watch it because it was very interesting, actually. Very, very interesting. And we're just wrapping up, dear Livia, so don't worry. So as we said, I believe, and I hope this is also your final reflection. And for the ones watching the video, I also hope when you're taking your notes, you can also add some personal reflections because this is a very interesting topic. But I believe you as leaders, with your own attitude, with your own life, by being punctual, by being respectful, by being empathic, you are already setting the ethical framework around you. And I also understand, and listen to this, there are a lot of organizations that are very toxic, in which it's the norm for people to blame each other. I think somebody shared that, right, in this class the other day. They said, we blame each other and there's no communication and we're always blaming each other. And unfortunately, when the leader or the boss or the CEO or the manager doesn't set the right mindset for an organization, then the organization is going to go wherever people go. That's why I believe it's so important that even if you don't have the position of being the boss, the supervisor, the coordinator, you behave the way you must behave. It is hard though, when the whole environment is not part of that frequency. But sometimes, you know what? I get told by some students, oh, teacher, I got fired. And I always tell them, congratulations. And they go like, teacher, why are you telling me congratulations if I got fired? No, congratulations, because that means there's something better coming for you in the future. But you needed this door to close so you could see all the other doors that are being opened to you in the future. So I'm so glad you got fired. But well, teacher, don't tell me that. No, I know it's at the beginning, it's shocking, and it's like, what did I do wrong? You don't necessarily have to do anything wrong. Sometimes life just disconnects you from those places where you just don't belong. And there are other places where you are needed. So I always tell my spirits up there, place me where I am needed. I may be egocentric and think, I want to be here. I want to do this. I wish I could work here. Don't let my ego control that. I'm here to serve others. So please put me where I can serve others, when I can help others. And I promise I will leave my ego aside. If that means I need to be fired, then let it be. At the beginning, it's going to be hard for me to understand, but I know and I trust life that eventually all of us will be in the right place where we belong, with the right frequency, and surrounded by the people who need to learn a lesson from us, but also where we're going to learn a lesson from all those people around us. Okay? Very good. Thank you very much then for a wonderful class. I really appreciate how patient you were for my students who watched this class. I hope you take note, okay? And I already added in our virtual Moodle, in our page, there's one section for you to take pictures of your notes for the week, upload your notes of the week. I know so many of you already finished your videos. I'm really looking forward to watching your videos. And as I already said, I will be uploading the videos on Sunday to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be probably sharing the links in our Moodle page, but also I'm going to send you an email, okay? An email with all the links to all the YouTube videos. And I believe, Rose Kelly, you're going to be presenting on Wednesday. I don't know if you're going to do it live. Very good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. That's the end of our class, and may the force be with you. I'll see you next Monday. We don't see each other. We'll see each other on Wednesday. Remember, we're going to be asynchronic next Monday, but I'll be in touch. Just pay attention to your emails. I'm going to be sending you some emails, and I'll see you next Wednesday for our last class. Is that okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where can I find the classes, the video classes?
Oh, you know what? I haven't been able to upload all the video classes in YouTube. So let me see. I'm going to upload this right now because I know students are waiting for it.
Okay.
But as many classes as I have in the past, I'm going to try to upload as many as I can. I'm not allowed to upload all the classes because UNLA doesn't want me, of course, to upload all the classes because they will be
Okay.
available and students wouldn't, just a few of them. There's a certain percentage of classes that I can upload, but I can share probably. I'm going to add them maybe as private videos, and I can send you the links if that's okay. But be patient. This class I'm going to upload right away. But the rest, be a little bit patient because it takes me a long time to upload all the classes. But I might add them as private. But I can send you an email. Just give me 1 or 2 days so I can send you the links. Okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Are you okay, Olivia? Everything okay? Don't worry. You can watch the class. It was very interesting, actually.
Yes, it was.
I know. Thank you very much, guys. I wish you the best of luck. I'll see you next Wednesday. Watch your video, evaluate each other with a positive mindset, with a positive vision, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday in our last class of the semester. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
And I'll see you next week. Bye.
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 See you.